Hello and welcome to Beyond the Scale, Weight Loss and Wellness. I'm your host, Coach Monica. I'm joined today by Coach Darcy, and we are here to guide you through the ins and outs of a lifestyle that's transformed not just our lives, but the lives of countless women navigating the waves of perimenopause and menopause. Whether you're here to shed weight, understand your body better, or simply find a community that gets it, you're in the right place. So sit back and enjoy the next few minutes as we tackle the hot issues of today. Good morning and welcome to February. Gosh, Coach Darcy, welcome to the show. And do you remember what this time was happening about this time last year? Do you remember, like February 20th? Does that ring a bell to you at all?
No. I don't
Oh
remember
dear.
yesterday.
Well, February 20th, which is just in a few days, is our first podcast that was released last year.
Oh,
Is that not totally
what?
cool or what? Yeah.
That is
So
really
we have
cool.
been doing this 1 year. And really cool story. Last night, we heard from a client who found us on a podcast and literally changed her life. And so I needed to hear that because you wondered, do we have anybody who listens to us out there? Like, the World Wide Web, do we have anybody that's like, hey, these girls know what they're talking about? And you just don't know, right?
Yeah, you never know.
You just don't know. So welcome, Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
It is Tuesday. It is a good day. Weather's cooperating, hopefully, with our signal today as we record this podcast. And we are live on Facebook as well. So we're doing two things at once today.
I'm in
How
a
are you
different
doing?
place. I'm in a different place.
You're trying
right now.
it. If it
I'm
sounds
trying
different.
It may sound a little echoey. You may hear Mark in the background. I don't know. I apologize, but he apparently is jealous that he's not on our podcast. So he's gonna have to.
He was a guest one
in.
time. Do you remember that? Remember
He
when
was.
our husbands were a guest?
Yeah, and if you didn't listen to that, you all should go back
should.
and go listen to it.
Yeah, they became famous that day. It was a really fun time. We did a 3-part series on how losing weight and how keto impacts marriages. And so Coach Darcy and I gave our perspective of what happened on our side as we were in active weight loss, and then we brought our husbands on. So and then we did one on friends. How did it impact your relationships and friends as well? It does, by the way.
That was a good one. It really does.
Yeah. Sadly, I think
mostly
sadly, I think it does.
Mm-hmm. I've noticed that, even nowadays, like it's even more prominent, even when, we're talking about health, people are starting to wake up that, hey, something's been a little off. We've been brainwashed, but yet they're still not seeing the importance of getting healthy. Like they're going to go the roundabout way of getting healthy. So
yeah. And I think it has to do with what we're going to talk about today. Right. What we're going to talk about today is why we two coaches choose to use the ketogenic diet to battle food addiction and sugar addiction. So I think it goes right along there. And we're going to prove the point today on why intuitive eating does not work to treat food addiction. And it's just in this day and age where we don't want to hurt feelings, where we tiptoe around everybody's feelings. I think it goes right along with that of, well, you should be able to eat what you want and everything in moderation, and friends and family members just don't get that. Plus they're uneducated. They don't understand what the ketogenic diet is.
Yeah. And it's still so bizarre to even see the younger generation still having the mindset of low calories and low fat. And I'm like, that doesn't really work. Look where it got us. And I was watching a reel of somebody that was kind of what are those called when you kind of judge somebody's video, or you make a video on top of somebody else's video?
Stitching?
Yeah. Stitching. They stitched this video of a lady that was obese. She's like, come follow me and see what I eat as an obese woman.
Yes. Oh,
And
I
this
hate those.
this person that is apparently knows everything about nutrition was judging everything she ate in such the like in the opposite way. Like
Yeah.
he's like, she had eggs and bacon one morning. He's like, well, instead of nitpicking about the type of bacon she was using, about the
The
maple brown
sugar.
sugar
Yeah.
bacon, he's like, well, she probably would have done better with turkey bacon. It's higher in
Ugh.
protein and lower in calories. And I was like, mm, let's
Makes your
not talk
head
about the
explode.
sugar, y'all. Let's not talk
Yeah.
about. And then he did the whole like she had, you know, I think bread with pepperonis on the top and something else that wasn't terrible, but did no mention of the carbs in the bread. No,
No.
but that's a little high in calories. Like if you chose this, that would be a better
Right.
option. Didn't even mention the pasta in the next slide. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
these are the people that are listening to all the wrong things and
Right.
judging ladies.
Yeah. Well,
No,
number one, those videos, that is the trend right now on TikTok. Follow me as a fat girl and what I eat in a
yeah,
day.
right.
Number one, I do not like that identity that they put on themselves. It is
No,
degrading, it is disgusting, and you are much more than a quote fat girl. And
yeah,
that drives me crazy. I don't like that trend. I don't like the message that it sends to people,
no,
or the identity that they place on themselves when they do that. I mean, and it's a big trend right now.
it
It's
is.
a big trend. But the other thing is these intuitive eating coaches, number one, they make a lot of money because
Hmm.
you get return clients because that way doesn't work, especially if you struggle with food addiction. And number two, it doesn't work. And, it was Super Bowl Sunday when we're recording this the Tuesday after Super Bowl Sunday. And even I've been in this lifestyle for 8 years now, and I still on Super Bowl Sunday had that attitude of, oh, if I eat, these veggies, a ton of these veggies, that's less calories than when I eat these pork rinds. Or even now, it still gets into my head. It is
Yeah.
ingrained. Our mama did a good job in telling
She
us
said,
about low fat.
yes.
But
You think about the obesity mindset and the acceptance that they have because they think that they're hopeless, so they're just going to embrace it. But
right.
the reality is yes, people will accept you because hopefully they're seeing your character versus what you are on the outside of physically outside. But
Mhm.
there, I was just talking to one of my clients. She's like, I don't care what people say. There is this mentality of respect that you get when you are skinny.
Yeah.
Like there's a
Oh,
difference
it's skinny
between how
privilege.
people
Yeah.
treat you differently.
Yeah.
And as much as you want to deny that,
Yep.
we've been there, done that. We've seen
Mhm.
both sides of it.
It's
And it
wrong,
is
but it's
very
real.
true. It's
Yeah.
very real.
Yeah. The
Um,
only thing that I can give them a pass on, I'm like, why is there skinny privilege? Why is there fat shaming? Because we've experienced both. People take us seriously now. It's a reality. It's wrong, but it's a reality. And the only thing I can think of is why is there fat shaming? Why do people take skinny people more seriously? And this isn't the topic of our podcast today, but it's worth mentioning. The only thing I can connect is when you take care of yourself and when you are, when you notice that, hey, I need to live in a body that's healthy, perhaps people look at you on the workforce or you and, as, hey, they're thinking about taking care of themselves. They might be a little bit more responsible, whether that's right or wrong. That's the only thing I can connect of why we're treated differently, even through the movement of body positivity. We're never going to break through the fact that there is skinny privilege and fat shaming. We're just never going to break through that, I don't
yeah,
think, in my lifetime. But
right.
today we're going to talk about a topic that it's really, we do a lot with weight loss. We do a lot of working with women and their hormones and eating around your hormones. But one of my favorite topics is my specialty, and that's overcoming food addiction, sugar addiction, and carbohydrate addiction. So when I say the word food addiction, or when I say the word sugar addiction, or when I say the word carbohydrate addiction, it's all one and the same. You can flip flop those words. Carbs, sugar, um, are the same. food, it's all the same. So there's different levels, there's different kinds of food addictions that we're going to talk about, but you can interchangeably swap those words. Sugar addiction, carbohydrate addiction. Here's another one, ultra processed food addiction. It's
Mm-hmm.
all one and the same. It's just, where do you lean? Which kind? Do you lean towards the carbohydrate addiction? All of us experience ultra processed food addiction because that's been intended, that's been planted. If you read the book, The Dorito Effect, you'll understand exactly how food companies made these things intentionally addictive. So we're going to talk about the tool that we use and the kind of coaching that we push away and say, no, that doesn't work. We use a specific treatment in our practice. And we're going to talk about why we do that during this session today. So we're going to first start out by defining food addiction. And a lot of these things are mixed around when it comes to the public eye. A lot of times food addiction is misunderstood with an eating disorder or an eating disorder. It's not. These things are completely different. So we're going to talk about how those things differ, and it's different treatments. Okay, there's different triggers, there's different behaviors, there's different associations between the two. A food addiction, I'll just start out by talking about this, and then Darce, maybe you could touch on some eating disorders a bit. But some food addictions, when you struggle with a food addiction, number one, you can go take a test for free on our website, kmhealthcoaching.org, because we use what's called the Yale Food Addiction Scale. So you can go in and take that test. You can say, oh gosh, this applies to me, this doesn't apply to me. Or you can just listen to kind of the description that we have. But food addiction is characterized by compulsive overeating. It's the loss of control around food. It is the continued consumption despite what may happen to you, despite the negative consequences, despite getting, struggling with obesity, despite eating until you make yourself sick, despite the fact that maybe perhaps you steal food. I mean, when we talk about food addiction, we talk about a desperation of, I'm going to get this drug no matter what it takes to get, right? It causes you a lot of distress. I'm just looking at the Yale Food Addiction Scale now as on our website and just kind of giving you some of these things. The fact that you need more to get the same impact, the fact that you may hide to eat your food. There are so many things. It's actually a chemical alteration of your brain. So a lot of people think, well, if I just tried harder, I would get over it and I would be able to diet this time. I'd be able to lose weight this time. When in fact, they have a chemical impact to their brain, that their brain is different. Their brain is broken. It's not their fault. We are trying very, very hard. I know the heroes in the food addiction world, Bitten Johnson and Dr. Vera Tarman, are working very, very hard to get this in the DSM-5. Or the ICD-10, because if it is, then insurance will help treat this disorder. And so we're working very, very hard to get this, because we're the last house on the block when it comes to treatment, because nobody wants to acknowledge that there is such a thing as food addiction, because there's such a social impact to eating, and we all have to eat, right? If a heroin addict wants to quit drugs, he just doesn't go, he or she just does, he just doesn't go buy it. Alcohol is the same way. You just avoid that aisle in the grocery store. You just avoid bars. Food addicts can't do that. Food addicts are surrounded. You go to your break room and you probably right now have a whole cabinet full of donuts that are lined out right there directly for you. We have to eat. And so food addiction is very, very difficult to be and accepted in the treatment world. Darce, do you want to talk a little bit, and I can help you if it can help you a little bit here, but because I kind of threw this at you.
Yeah, you did.
Okay,
I got
good.
this.
You want
I
to
got this. And how it differs.
talk a little bit about
I'll
the
get
eating
it.
disorders and how people might know that they have an eating disorder versus a food addiction.
Right. So, yeah, you did throw this one at me, and I'm like my insides were like
Yeah.
shrinking. But I this is how I'll take it, because a lot of times people will get these confused on what's the difference between a food addiction versus
Mhm.
things like disorders like anorexia or bulimia. That's another type of food disorder, but um, in those two, in that it focuses on the addictive nature of certain foods rather than the restrictive behavior.
Mm.
So my question, though, on top of that is, um, like food addiction, we like food addiction because of that dopamine rush. There's a lot of reasons that you can
Mhm.
fill in the blank of why we are addicted to food, just like anybody that goes to alcohol or gambling. It's just that
Mhm.
rush. It's like it's a form
You
of
need more.
you need
Yeah.
more, and one is not enough. There's no limitation. Like you can't just have something in moderation. There is no
Mhm.
moderation in a food addict. But in the same breath, addiction with anorexia and bulimia. I think in the same breath, I think it would be addiction to the action and
Mhm.
the control that anorexia and bulimia have,
Mhm.
because you have that mindset of like, I need to be, fill in the blank, maybe super skinny, and I'm comparing myself. So it's more of an emotional addiction and control. I'm guessing
Yeah.
that'd be my
Yeah.
foreseeing of this, what these two are. And I think what happens is you people that don't understand the differences between either of them, they like to lump all of that together.
Right.
If somebody has a food addiction, they're like, oh well, you're just you have an eating disorder, or
Mhm.
but it's not.
Right.
It's,
Now people can have both. People
right,
can they
right.
can cross over, and that's when the lines get a little blurry.
But they lump all of that together. Like
Mhm.
that's where, yeah, you probably dabble in some sort of unhealthy relationship with it.
Mhm.
And I think that's what we've built around our food nutrition, is it's an unhealthy relationship,
Yeah.
emotionally, spiritually, and physically.
Yeah, yeah, that's totally true. And the other thing that can cross over is emotional eating versus, being chemically
Yeah,
addicted to food. It absolutely those can impact each other. One can, lead to another. You can start out as an emotional eater where you are triggered by stress and then become chemically addicted to the food. And
yeah,
so there is you can see a difference when you do a PET scan on a patient. You can see the impact of sugar and the carbohydrates and the food. You can see the difference in the brain, and you can actually, you can see those parts of the brain just light up. Here's a scary number for you. 1 out of 3 people are chemically addicted to food.
mm,
We have become um a country, and I'm gonna specifically speak now. There's a lot, especially in Sweden, there's a lot of chemically, addicted people over there. That's a big one, but,
mm,
um, we have become a nation where we are number 1. We're addicted emotionally. We're addicted, our schedules are addicted, but not only that, but we become absolutely addicted to the chemicals that are in our food. And it's caused a massive rise in obesity, of type 2 diabetes. So all of these things are stems. So when you say, okay, let's for example, let's give a shot for those, that are addicted to food. You're replacing one addiction with another because you're going to chemically need this shot for the relief of food addiction. We have come up with, now I didn't come up with this, I lived it, right? We use a treatment in our practice called the ketogenic lifestyle. Now you can cross this over to carnivore. That
mhm.
also works, but we believe that the ketogenic lifestyle is much more sustainable for most people, right? But we use this treatment in our practice because number 1, it works. And number 2, it works. And number 3, it works.
Yeah, it does.
And so we're going to talk about why we use this treatment and why we tell people that come to us. We have had people come to us and say, well, hey, my sponsor said that the intuitive eating works. And my sponsor said that, that it's not a menu, that if you restrict me from eating the sugar, then I'm going to want more. My friends, that's a different treatment plan. That is that is completely a different that is a disordered eating treatment plan, right? When you are chemically addicted to food, you can't put the drug in your body. You can't. There is no
Right.
moderation for a food addict, for a sugar addict, for a carbohydrate addict, for a processed food addict. I wish there was a whole word. I think it's just going to have to be food addict, but I wish there was a word that encapsulates all of those, because a lot of people get confused. Well, I'm not addicted to, potato chips, but they love chocolate chip cookies, right? They're addicted to
Right.
sugar. Or some people are like, I hate desserts, so I'm good. I'm good to go. Give me a potato, give me a French fry. That's where their boundaries come down, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so we use the ketogenic lifestyle as our treatment plan. When we have a food addict come to us, and we have two different programs for food addiction. We have a 3-month program, and then we have an 18-month intensive program. When we have a client come to us, we give them what's called the Yale Food Addiction Scale. We give them this test, and then I take them through. We are also certified with the sugar. It's the only diagnostic tool that is out there available for people. And so, what I like to do is I like to take the client back to their childhood, because we've all become addicted at some point. Did you know the majority of people become sugar addicted at birth when they start the formula? Because
Mm.
formula, the first ingredient is
Soy.
soy and cornstarch.
Oh, those two. Yeah.
Corn syrup. It makes me crazy,
Yeah.
crazy mad. Why are we addicting our babies as infants? I spoke with a client yesterday who became addicted at 5 years old. She knew
Mm.
exactly that moment. And so we have this tool. It's called the sugar assessment tool. We have this tool where we can take you back, and you will see the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows of your weight. Again, not everybody has a weight issue that is addicted, right? But you'll see the ebbs and flows of the diets that you've gone on, your lifestyle, maybe you've gone through a divorce. You'll see all of these ebbs and flows, and then you'll see where those things align, and you will actually get to see where your addiction came. Mine came at about 16 years old, when I stole food from a nursing home. That was when I was like officially a food addict. Of all things to steal, I stole Ensure. Why not a
I
cookie?
think
I don't know. It was
pretty sure
Ensure.
mine was mom's peanut butter protein bars that she
Protein
spent a
bars.
lot of money
Sorry, mom.
on. Yes. Wow.
But
I I can recall sitting on Saturday mornings filling my cornflakes, that plain cornflakes with
oh,
sugar,
yeah.
sugar cane, and I would do it where it would heap over, like it would
Uh-huh.
sink into the milk, and
Uh-huh.
then get the next layer would be, it would probably, I don't know, it was probably a whole cup of sugar
Oh, yeah.
in my milk
Yeah.
easily.
And then you get
So,
to the last part of the milk and you drink it.
oh, that's
Mhm.
obviously that's superb, superb, herb. Words are hard
Oh,
today.
yeah. But what you do is
Anyway.
you find where your life has taken those dips and those valleys. You'll find that is where your sugar addiction and your food addiction is, the foundation is built. So we take them through the sugar diagnostic scale, and then immediately the first phase of our treatment, and I'm not going to go through, there's 7 phases that we take our clients through. The first one is containment. The We cannot do anything with a client without them being abstinent. You can't. You have to be abstinent before you're in recovery. Recovery and abstinence are two different things. Okay. So the first, and all we're going to talk about today is containment, because that is where we bring in the ketogenic diet, right?
Mhm.
You have to remove the drug. There's no way you can even begin to come close to recovery. This is why it makes me crazy when I've got people out there saying that you can be intuitive and you can eat whatever you want just in moderation. No, you got to remove the drug. That's like an alcoholic going into a bar and saying, "You know what? You can go in there and you can just hold the beer. You can just hold the beer. You're fine." You can't do that. You've got to remove the drug. You've got to contain the emergency, right? And so that's where the ketogenic diet is just brilliant. Do you want to talk a little bit about keto and why is it so successful? Like, number one, removing the sugar. That's what we do with keto, right?
Yeah.
Everything's sweet to the mouth. for the first 90 days in my treatment program. 90 days, we remove everything sweet to the mouth. But that's not, it is a part of the healing process. But what is the magical ingredient to the ketogenic diet?
So the magical ingredient is
Well,
the
there's
fact that,
two.
I
There's
mean,
two.
well, there's keto is just magical to begin with. It's
Yeah.
one of those things where it's a key of freedom. Um, Basically, because what your body is doing is, instead of burning the carbs, the sugars that you're putting in your body, and then like that instant dopamine rush, and then the sugar rush, and all those things, and then you decline
Mm-hmm.
really fast. It's like the ups and downs of eating the sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your body's going to be burning the fat for fuel instead.
Yeah.
So it changes into ketones, which that's what your body is doing,
Mm-hmm.
and that is that long lasting energy.
Yeah.
It allows your body to be sustainably full all day long, instead of those sharp turns, like, oh, I'm going to eat this donut, I'm on a high,
Mm-hmm.
I'm full for 40 minutes, and then the next thing you're going to do is then, oh, now I'm going to have something else. Oh, I see somebody eating something, I'll partake in what they're doing, even though you may not actually be full.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you named it. It's the fat. It's the
the
fat
fat.
and the protein that
Yeah.
you're eating, that you don't have those ups and downs.
Right.
You know?
Right.
That's the magic. I mean,
Yes.
it literally is magic. And so when people say, "Well, what about when you get sick? What about, what about the long-term effects of keto, and what if your clients are sick all the time because, that ketoacidosis?" And no. First of
No.
all, ketoacidosis has nothing to do with keto. That is
No, they're
diabetes,
not.
right? Two
Yeah.
different things. Second, if you are sick on keto, you're doing it wrong because you're not getting the electrolytes. It's the
Right.
electrolytes that you have lost, it has nothing to do with the fat or the protein. The fat or the protein is the secret magical ingredient because you're never hungry.
Right.
You stop those connections in your brain. There's connections from the sugar and the carbs to this dopamine rush. That's the drug. The drug is very, very loud, and the drug talks, and it's through that dopamine rush and that dopamine connection and those neurons that are connecting, right? You break
Mhm.
those. When you are eating the fat and the protein that you're supposed to, you break those. And so you
Yeah.
lose that ravenous, give me all of the food, right?
Yeah. We've created you talk about the brain waves, but the neural pathways, that's what we've created in our
Mm-hmm.
brains. That's why we associate events that we go to, like Super Bowls or
Mm-hmm.
Christmases, with certain treats that we typically have. We have
Mm-hmm.
made those neural pathways that
Mm-hmm.
trigger the dopamine rush.
Yeah.
And just, even if you don't eat the food, you have that memory of what it does to your brain, and it makes you super happy.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody detoxes from that, they're creating, yes, the memory's still there, but
Mm-hmm.
in the same breath, you're creating a new neural pathway that's
Mm-hmm.
then associating a new um, association with certain foods that are not that sugary,
Yeah.
um,
I've also
need and dopamine rush.
Yeah. I've also heard it compared to the kind of fuel that you burn. So you can burn gasoline very, very quick, but you go into a coal burner, that is a deep, fiery burn. That is like a long-term kind of thing. And
Yeah.
that's what ketosis does to your brain is you go from this quick. That's why afternoon after you have that Snickers bar, you go into this crash and this
Mhm.
complete and sometimes it's despair. Sometimes you get this sugar high, then it's a really big low. But here's where addiction happens. When you get that high, you take a bite of a Snickers bar and you eat it, you have this big high and you have this bunch of energy and then you crash. The next time you have that Snicker bar, you're going to need more to get that
Mhm.
same rush. It's just like heroin, it's just like cocaine. You need more, you need more, you need more. That's why obesity is so strong when it comes to the food addict world because you need more to get that same rush. And so when you're burning ketones, you don't need that. You have that. It's a stable sense of energy, a stable sense of dopamine. You regulate the dopamine instead of doing the highs and lows. That's why ketosis works in food addiction. For the first 90 days, I don't have them track macros. I don't care about weight loss. I don't care about anything but removing and containing this drug. Now, here's the difference of abstinence versus recovery. Abstinence, you can do anything for a little bit of a time.
Mm-hmm.
You've got what's called, a lot of people call it the addict brain. We call it red dog. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The red dog in your brain is the one, the addict brain, that is just screaming, give me sugar, give me sugar. The red dog is so smart and so personal. He's quiet for the first 20 days because he knows that you've tried diets over and over. He knows that you fail. He knows
You
that
can
you'll
do
go back
anything.
to it. Yeah. So he's quiet. He's very, very eerily quiet. That's why you call it, Darcy, you call it the honeymoon phase, right?
Mm-hmm.
Red
Yeah.
dog's mouth is muzzled. He's not saying a word. Something happens around 21 days. He starts to be like, what is she doing? Like, she should be feeding us a donut by now. And so the red dog starts to whisper a little bit. You taught your dog how to whisper. Kind of
I did.
That's what I picture in my mind, is Clark going poof, poof. Oh, but he starts to get a little bit louder. And he's like, there's an office party here. That donut has extra sprinkles on it. And
It's your favorite.
it's your favorite. You usually fall by now. What are you doing? And then when you ignore it, kind of makes it mad a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, all right, I'm just gonna sit back, I'm gonna relax a little bit, and I'm gonna learn more about this person. The red dog's been with you since you were an infant. He knows exactly what your failures, he knows where your weak spots are, he knows you. But you're doing something different, and you're feeding your body fats, healthy fats and proteins. Your body's getting healthier, your body's healing on the inside, it's getting stronger, you're losing weight, you're getting more confident. He's getting more threatened, right? But he knows that you're just on a diet and you're going to fail anyway. He knows that. That's why we don't do 2 weeks detox with our clients in an addiction program. We do it for 90 days. And here's the secret ingredient. And this cracked me up. I had a sponsor one time email me. She was very unhappy with my treatment plan for her sponsee. And she's like, when are you going to take your client off that plan? When is your client going to go back to normal? You should have seen the fireworks shoot out my head when I got this email. Never. Because the client is free from the drug. We're not going to reintroduce the drug back to the client. It's like telling an alcoholic, when are you going to go back to the bar? No, we're not doing that. We've removed the drug. We've contained it. Here's where abstinence does not work. And think about recovery, Dars. Think about the recovery process. You can be abstinent, but not be in recovery. And this one really hit me this week particularly. I'm constantly learning more about addiction treatment. And this one really, and I'm still processing, and I want to hear what you say about that because I'm learning so much about this. You can be abstinent but not be in recovery. Recovery is body, mind, spirit, and your social. So it's like a 4-legged stool. This Roland Williams taught me this. Incredible guy. He's an alcohol and hardcore drug addict expert. But he says there's 4 legs of a stool. Social, you got your social leg, you've got your mind, so the body, mind, and spirit, and your social, and your spiritual side. If one of those is broken, that stool is going to fall to the ground. You can be abstinent without dealing with all 4 of those legs. Give me some examples on how you can be abstinent but not in recovery. I've been processing that this week.
It's a good one to think about. It goes to how you could do the actions and be like in AA. They have you do these proactive things and answering these questions. You can do all those steps, all the 12 steps. Even with OA, you can do all the 12 steps. You can be present and show up to meetings. You can do all those things, but you can, and I've seen it where you can just rush through things just to get it done.
Yeah.
And then when you have the moment of not being, your mind starts to outpace where you need to be, you kind of get in this panic tizzy. And then when you're in a panic tizzy, you start to be,
you let your guard down.
Yeah, you let your guard down, and you are now, and like standing in the open naked because you're like, oh wait, I left my clothes back there.
Yeah, right.
So I'm going to stand right here. So then that's where, the relapse starts to happen.
Yeah,
but
when you don't do the work.
Even if you are abstinence without doing the work in the
Mm-hmm.
proper timing, I think it's one of those things where you cannot rush through the process.
No, you have to heal your social environment. You got to put an army around you who is willing to support you. I get so angry with what we see every day of the non-supportive family members of people just waiting for these people to fall off their diets.
Because they're not fun anymore.
They're not fun anymore. They want them to start drinking. They want them to start eating again. You should be matching my lifestyle, and you're not. And so they're not working on their social aspect. They're not working on their spiritual. They're not giving control over this. We do this 12 steps in our program. You can't do anything till you give it to God and say, you know what? First step, I can't do this. I cannot do this on my own. And you have to give it to God. You got to realize, number one, he can do it. He can take that away from you. And then the third step, you've got to actually give it to him and say, okay, I can't do it, but you can. And then you've got to go through all of your past. You've got to go through, well, how did I get in this mess in the first place? Are there people I'm angry at? Are there people that I have, so you go to the fourth step, and then you go to the fifth step where you've got to make it right. Mm-hmm. You got to realize where you went wrong. You got to make it right. So we take our clients through the 12 steps, but we have clients who don't want to do that. They don't want to do that, and they're abstinent, but they're not wanting to do the work and do the digging out of the big hole that they've been in for their lives.
Do you think though some people want to do the work, but because they are working at it so hard that they're, like I said, we're skipping over steps, that then feel like they've got to be perfect through this process?
Yeah. So
and if they're not perfect, then they go backwards and they start picking up the things that they gave to God. That they initially said, then they pick it back up because again, it comes down to another form of control, another form of trust. For me, it's trust. Like I have a very hard time trusting. And I've learned that in the process of this the 12 steps. But when we go backwards and we pick it up for ourselves, we start to get unbalanced, just like the table you're talking about. We start working on one of those legs and the other legs are not being balanced. So that's why it's important to work on all of that. And when you say you're going to give it up, you actually give it up. You don't go backwards.
Yeah.
But
the cool thing about that is, Darce, you're actually in active recovery. Even though you're stuck on one, even though one trust is hard for you, you're actively in recovery. The cool thing about the ketogenic diet and us pairing these things together is it buys you time. When you're not on the ketogenic diet and you're trying to wrestle these things alone with a bowl of oatmeal or, these high carb, you are working against your own body. Whereas when you're on the ketogenic diet, you're buying time because you're putting your body into ketosis. Your body's burning its own fat for fuel. The dopamine is resetting, right? You're regulating that. You don't have an appetite. You have increased satiety. You have mental clarity. You can think about things, as you're doing the steps and as you're doing the recovery. That breaks the cycle of addictive eating. And so you've got the science backing what the hard work that you're doing on the recovery side. When you put abstinence together with recovery, you've got massive healing that's happening. And like you said, it doesn't have to be perfect. To do it. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have everything put in together in place before you start it. You contain the drug, you remove the drug. That's why we give you the ketogenic diet. We give you a meal plan when you come into our program. You're on this for 90 days, and then we begin recovery. That's when Monday nights we meet for Overeaters Anonymous. We meet every Monday night till we go through these steps, and then we do the recovery together. But it's the ketogenic diet that gives you the fuel and the tools and the courage. It's like liquid courage, ketones, to be able to do it. Right?
Yeah. I like what Roland also says. Roland Williams. He's pretty fantastic.
Love him. Love him.
He was talking about, when you are in the state of recovery, you're going through the steps. You don't just, like, if you mess up, this is where we're talking about the perfection of things.
Yeah.
Just because you mess up doesn't mean that, let's say, a kid going through school and he's in 8th grade, just because he messes up, you don't send him back to kindergarten, right?
Right.
So the whole process is, and I had a professor in college. He was, and I'm sure this is a very common phrase, but failure is a sign of success and learning. As long as you're willing to learn from those mistakes and failures, you're not like losing out on being I mean, you're not a failure and staying a failure. You are
Yeah.
failing and growing.
Yeah.
So when you have those mistakes or a relapse or one of those moments where you're like, wow, you just messed up, you don't just start from the beginning. You just add
No.
to it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's going to build it up. You're going to add to those things. Okay, why did I get
Yeah.
here? What caused me to get here?
Yes.
But
Mapping it
you gotta be
out.
willing to
Yeah.
not be perfect
Yeah.
in order
That
to know that, yeah, I want to be recovered. I want to be healthy. I want to be free from this chain that binds me.
Yeah.
But I've got to be willing to do the
Yeah.
work.
If you're not moving, you're failing. If you're not moving it towards your healing, you are going backwards. I like to compare it, and I forget where I heard this example, but I like to compare it to pretend like you're going, an escalator that's going down, and you want to, you try to go up a going down escalator when you're a kid. If you're moving, up the escalator, if you're moving, you're going up. You are at least staying the same. If you stop moving, you're going to go down, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and one of our clients, Gary on online here said in AA we call it being a dry drunk. You're not drinking, but you're not recovering either. So you need to be moving forward at all times in your recovery. And that's what we do week by week. We sit with clients, we help them move forward, we help them grab a healing tool that they'll learn that week in their abstinence. And everybody's abstinence and recovery looks different.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them is individual because we all have different lives. We all have different schedules. We all have different family members. We have to improvise. We have to sometimes we just can't go to the places that we could before because we are so the addiction is so strong. We can't go the places that we used to go. We have to grieve over foods that we can't eat again. I will never be able to eat a donut in my life again. Never. That was my drug of choice. If I do, I will go on a 30-pound sugar binge and you'll find me on the side of the road somewhere with powdered sugar all over me. There's just no way. I'm okay with that.
Right.
My mind has
Mm-hmm.
healed so that I'm okay with that. And I've replaced it with the healthy fats, the meats, the eggs, the nuts, and the low carb veggies. I've replaced it with all of those things that make me satisfied. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about something in group last night about food neutrality. Is it possible to ever be around those foods again? The good news is, I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
I've been abstinent for 8 years, and I can now go to a party and be just fine with a whole lineup of donuts. Those don't impact me. Now, there are clients that we have that cannot do that, right? So there are times when you do not have food neutrality and you cannot do it, right?
Yes.
Do not use the escalator, use the steps. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary.
I would say, if you were in a spot, if you're listening and you're like, well, I don't really feel like I'm a food addict, or first of all, if you don't feel like that, maybe you're not. Maybe you're just like when I first started the program, almost 6 years ago. I never believed that I was an emotional eater as well, because we talk a lot about emotional eating versus now food addiction. I went along probably a good 3 years in my keto journey, not thinking that I was an emotional eater until I realized, well, maybe I am an emotional eater back in the day.
Yeah.
And then I got to the point through the 3 years that I'm like, well, I'm definitely not a food addict because I have control over, I don't need the sugars. I don't need the carbs. I have proven that to myself being keto. But then as I look back now, about probably this mid last year, I realized, you know what? Looking back at even my keto journey, I have a lot of signs that I am a food addict. I cannot just stop with one keto sweet. I have to have more than just one. Like, I don't bake much anymore because I know it's there. I know it's in the freezer, or if it's in the fridge, I know it's there and I know it needs to be eaten. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be balanced out between Mark and myself. It's actually going to be me, because I'm going to say, he's not eating this. And so I need to eat it before it goes bad.
Keto treats are expensive.
They're expensive,
Can't let them go
and it was
bad.
a lot of time. I can't really go to Baked by Vines very often, because I know if I do, those treats are in my fridge, and it's not moderation for me.
Right.
So knowing that, I had to acknowledge that I am actually in denial of the fact that it might not be an extreme form of a food addiction, because I'm able to, get a little bit more hold of
Got
things,
control
but
over it. Right.
I'm not good at it. Like
You've
I
got the
have
tools.
control, but I'm not in. I've got the tools.
Yeah.
But that's where, if you're sitting there thinking, well, I'm not an emotional eater, I'm not a food addict, I can stop eating those things anytime. Well, my challenge to you would be, try it.
Yeah.
Try it for probably 60 to 90 days. That's my suggestion, is see,
or go take the test on our website.
And the test. But that's the first initial, okay, do I need to take the test?
Right.
If you that's more of like the sign, like, okay, maybe I should really take this test to see if I am a food addict.
Yeah.
And then if you want to be free from that, that's why I feel like we get into these the diet cycles, is because we talk ourselves out of these things so quickly, or we're not moving fast enough. We just stay in the same mindset until we actually have an awakening of, oh, I am so in control of my life, and not willing to let go of any of these things, because it's my way or the highway, and look where it's gotten me.
Yeah.
I mean, those are some questions to ask yourself.
How's it worked for you?
How's it working for you?
That's what we ask our clients. How's it worked for you? How's the diet cycle work for you? It's not.
Yeah.
Because we just keep doing it again. Now, one of the differences between emotional eating, because there are emotional eaters that are normal eaters, right?
Yes.
One of the differences that we teach in our food addiction is everybody. I believe everybody needs therapy. If you lose over 25 pounds, you got to process that with someone. You got a lot of stuff happening in your body. You need to process. You need to let somebody hold some of your what has happened. Right? You had a lot happen. You've had a lot of healing happen. Huge pro therapy coach here. The difference in my food addicts versus emotional eaters is the timing of that therapy. I never send a client who is a food addict to therapy first. I have had more therapists ruin the sobriety of my clients. And now sponsors, I've had more therapists ruin their sobriety than not. And it's simple. It's not the therapist's fault. Although the therapist should really be in tune to the impact of sugar to the body and the impact of the addictive foods. Yes, they should be aware of that. But it's the red dog. The red dog is so conniving and so smart. He knows how you think, he knows how you work, he knows exactly what you're going to tell your therapist. He will have that therapist literally eating donuts out of his hand by the end of the therapy session, and you will be back into the intuitive eating world. So it's the timing of therapy that we flip flop, because even food addicts need therapy, but I don't want it on the front side. I want it on the back side of it. Right.
Yeah.
We use things like cognitive behavioral therapy. We have tools in our pockets that we use with our clients that will help them understand the negative thought patterns, understand, past eating habits, that will re-anchor their old thinking with new thinking. So we got a lot of things that we use on top of the abstinence. But if a client is not abstinent, we cannot work with them. And so that's what we do for the first 90 days. And cool thing with that is a lot of weight loss does happen in that time. So we don't focus on weight loss for our food addicts, but it just automatically happens.
Yeah.
The ketogenic lifestyle, I don't know how. If somebody could talk me out of this, probably not. I don't know how you become free from food addiction without the ketogenic lifestyle, honestly.
Right.
I even went into the oatmeal factor when I was experimenting with my sobriety. I can't even eat plain oatmeal, and everybody's different, without it triggering the sugar addicts and without it triggering my hunger hormones and those kinds of things. I don't know how people I don't know how they're free without the ketogenic lifestyle.
think this definitely the science between like with the ketogenic and carnivore, more so carnivore, the mixture of the proteins and the
Yeah.
fats,
Yeah.
shutting off that leptin hormone, that is very helpful. And I think it's also the order and how you eat your food. And now you're thinking, oh, okay, that's really like, I don't think when I'm eating my food, like I'm just eating to eat. But when you are in the ketogenic and the carnivore world, you actually end up eating to fuel your body. So it's a different mindset versus just eating because everybody else is eating, or eating because it's 12 o'clock, or eating because it's breakfast time.
Yeah.
We now have that tool to know that, okay, this is the time. I'm just going to fuel my body. I can actually be in tune with what my stomach is telling me to do. And that's why, I think it becomes a easier tool to use when you are trying to be free from a food addiction.
Yeah.
That I see the other addictions like drug addiction and alcoholism, like a lot of those, when you go to an AA or you see a show or something that has an AA or a drugs on, called DO. I don't know what is it. I don't even know. But they replace it with sugars and donuts.
Yeah.
So that, yes, they're getting rid of that drug that they are, wanting, but then they replace it with sugar that's even more addictive.
Yeah.
So now you're not only free from alcohol, or kind of free, whatever, however you say, you're recovering from alcohol, but now you've added a new drug of choice to replace that with. So you have to be very careful. And that's why I think keto and carnivore gives you more of the longer lasting, sustainable type of recovery from, the drug.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to depend on those sugars.
Right. Yeah. And we want you to know, if you're stuck in on the side of the road, completely beat up by food and sugar and carbohydrate addiction, there's hope for you. You can be free. Coach and I've been free from food addiction now for 8 years. We've been sober for 8 years. It is possible to be free. You got to want it. You've got to be so angrily like, I will do anything for this. You got to want it, but you can completely be free from food addiction. So if that's you, if you're struggling and you're like, I just can't even find a way out of this mess, give us a call. Give us a call. I did make it. I have made it more financially available to people. And so we have broken down our program into segments. I need you for 18 months. I'm just going to be honest. We need you for 18 months if you're going to be free. But we realize that that's not always financially feasible. And so we've broken it up into 3-month segments. And so if that is more financially feasible to you, then that option is there. So you find our website, kmhealthcoaching.org, and you go to the food addictions page, and you will find out all of the information about that. But that's why we use keto, for food addiction and for healing and for recovery. Any last minute thoughts, Coach?
Not really. I think we covered a lot. It's a lot to process.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm absolutely, don't be afraid or ashamed of possibly being a food addict if you find yourself in the same.
Yeah.
If you are wanting to, get out of that diet cycle. I got distracted by one of our comments.
But your comments.
Anyway, it's a game changer for me. And it's it's cleaning out my junk closet, honestly, of things that I've wanted to and knew that I needed to tackle, but I didn't really want to because of that control. So
you're doing that on our Monday night meetings. We have a food addiction support group on Monday nights that meets, that you're requested to be at if you are in our program. And we're guy named Gary's leading our 12 step. He's amazing. I love it. I love it. Well, we are here every Tuesday morning. We're live on Facebook and all the social media aspects at 11 a.m. And then our podcast is released every Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. So find us in one of those venues and reach out to us. We want you to know that there's hope and there's healing for food addiction.
All right. In the meantime, also, if you would subscribe to our
Yes.
channel. That'd be great too. And
That'd be awesome.
share with people that you may feel like needs to hear this.
Yeah. If you're listening on Apple, leave us a review. That really, really
Mhm.
helps podcasting. It really, really helps. So we'll see you next Tuesday, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Hey, it's Coach Monica here. Guess what? If you're fed up with feeling stuck in your battle with weight or food, I've got something just for you. Check out our free Facebook groups. Over at Food Addiction and Recovery, I'm over there waiting for you. We're going to walk this journey together. It's about getting real, sharing our stories, and lifting each other up. We're in this together every step of the way. And if you're curious about changing your life with keto, the Weight Loss Project is where you want to be. Coach Darcy is amazing. And together, we're not just talking about losing weight. We're talking about finding a happier, healthier you. So, what do you say? Are you ready to join us? The links are in the show notes below, and I'm telling you, this is more than an invite. It is the start of something great. We cannot wait to see you